Man, what a pleasure to welcome this next guest. We're obviously big fans. This next guest is the epitome of heart and determination. Not only excellent in the octagon, but one of the best analysts in the game today. He returns to the ring at UFC 301 in Rio. The one and only Anthony Lionheart Smith. Man, welcome to Submission Radio, dude. It's great to have you on the program.
Yeah, I feel like it's been a long time since I've been on.
It's been a while, man. It's good to have you back on, especially as you've got Vitor Petrino just around the corner next week. Before we get into the why and how that happened, we were, doing a cheeky stalk of you on your Instagram. And the latest picture is actually a black and white photo of you, striking image. And the quote is, "People want what you already got." And I don't know, for some reason, man, like I want to unpack that a little bit. There's something about it. There's a look in your eyes in this photo, and obviously you've had a massive career, almost 10 years so far in the UFC. There's a lot that people would potentially want from you. But what does that quote mean to you in relation to UFC 301?
Well, it's some song lyrics,
yeah,
and it just kind of that song is kind of stuck with me since the first time I heard it, and it's the truth. Like, there's a reason that the young guys fight and call me out every single time. It's they want what I have. I have the name, I've had the title shots, I've had the ranking, the bonuses, the long career, the financial success, the everything that comes along with it. And I get it, because I've been those guys. I totally understand. I've fought the guys that have been around for a long time and wanted to use their name as a springboard and a stepping stone. So I get it. It's just that's what I got to keep reminding myself. I think sometimes that gets missed on me, just personally. Like, I forget who I am to them, and a lot of times I'm training in these gyms and hanging out with the guys, and I just feel like I'm just one of the dudes. But I've had training partners recently like, you're not like the rest of us, and as much as I'd like to think that I am, that's just not the case.
When you say that, you mean not like the rest of them, as in like a level above, or how is that meant?
Oh, just my tenure in the UFC, the position that I am in the sport, the voice that I have as a broadcaster, the success as a radio show host and a podcaster. It's just I'm in a different place than they are.
I remember that. I remember the frustration that you had trying to land a fight. It was around the time of the Hector Lombard fight. You beat Hector, you were a middleweight, and you were kind of like, dude, I just want to get a fight. I want to climb the rankings. But what is it like being on the other side of that when you've got these young guys trying to call you out and use your name? And how do you take it? Is there a part of it that gets frustrating? Do you get sick of it? Do you ever look at it and go like, dude, why are you calling me out? Why am I the guy that you want to make a kind of name of? What is it like being on the other side of that?
Well, on one side of it, it's nice because I can fight whenever I want.
Yeah, yeah.
Or not fight when I don't want to. I kind of control that, so that's cool. On the other side of it, it is what it is. It means I've made it to a position where my peers either respect what I've done or want to take it away from me. So that's cool too. But I think sometimes the reason that I think a lot of these young guys are calling me out recently bothers me. And again, like, I try not to take it too personal. I get it. They're just trying to make a name for themselves. They're trying to feed their own families, accomplish their own goals. But like, personally, I don't have to like it though.
Of course, man. I know that after the last loss, you sort of spoke about it a little bit, and I saw a quote that you said where you basically said, "I think I came to the conclusion that I still like fighting and I still want to do it. There's just some things that I need to change though, not just in my game and style." So I just want to go into that a little bit, man, because here we are ahead of Rio. Can you take us into some of those things that you sort of realized that you needed to change, and how did you realize those things needed to change? Like, what was it that made you realize that?
Well, the last loss, like, there's a possibility that last loss took me out of, like, it might have taken the title out of reach. And then that's not, I mean, that may be a little bit dramatic, I suppose. I'm probably thinking a little bit dramatic about it like that, but it's definitely further away than I want it to be, for sure. And sitting down and just trying to figure out, like, what the hell's happening. Like, and the last one's easy. Like, I know what happened. I took a fight on almost no notice and kind of swung for the fences and see what was going to happen. But And that just is what it is. But I think the title has blinded me. I think that it's created a blind spot for me that I haven't noticed until recently. So I think I've been so concerned with it and so obsessed with it and so just worried about it that I go into these fights and it's not that I'm looking past anybody, but I have this plan in my head where I'm trying to control everything and I'm trying to, I got to beat this guy and then I'll try to fight this guy and then maybe I'll call this guy out. Maybe this guy will win and I'll fight that guy and then I can get a title fight. It's all planned out in my head. And it's just fucking blinded me. It's making me a worse fighter because I'm concerned with it and I'm so obsessed with it. And so I just decided, I'm done worrying about it. I'm done being so obsessed and consumed with the idea of trying to get to another title fight. So me and my coaches made a deal that we were going to just take one at a time and focus 100% just on that person and that person only and pretend like the next day doesn't exist. And then after the fight, then we'll figure it out from there, and we'll just reevaluate after each individual fight and we'll go from there and see what happens. So I'll fight and whatever happens. We'll fix the problems. We'll adjust. We'll figure out what's going on there. And then we'll take it and we'll wait till they call and we'll go again. And then we'll just focus on that guy, try to get better in between and just rock and roll like that. I'm just done worrying about the title.
And before we get into this fight, I saw also in the article you said you spoke to Glover Teixeira and he had a few words of wisdom there. Glover Teixeira, what did he say? What kind of stuck out to you? What hit home with you?
Listen, you guys know me. I'm not ever hiding anything. There's no secret to what I have planned. But some of it was training approaches. As I've gotten older, some things that I need to focus more on, and some things that maybe I need to take out. So that was super helpful, just as far as technically, and just how to figure out as a aging fighter. Not that I'm old, but I've had a long career and just figuring out how to approach it better that way. Some of it's mindset, and that's kind of where the one at a time thing came. Glover wasn't really necessarily so concerned with the title. Just all of a sudden, holy shit, here we are 4 in a row, and he's getting close,
Yep.
So that was some of it too, and just he's such a good mentor. Just to not even obviously to Alex for sure because they're so close, but just to people that he respects and that respect him. I asked for his opinion and he was nice enough to give it to me.
I like the sort of introspective approach and sort of obviously the candor and I imagine there's a certain sense of it's freeing when you're you know what, let's just not think about that title for a second. Like you said, I call it the Robert Whittaker approach. If you ask Robert Whittaker anything about what's happening after this or who you're going to fight, it's always the calendar stops on the day of my opponent. The world basically doesn't exist afterwards. And I think it's a good approach. But you mentioned, or Dennis mentioned, you decided that you wanted to continue fighting. Was it ever on the table? Was it ever, you seem like a realistic guy. Were you going to consider all options as opposed to just be blinded? No, this is just going to be it and that's it. Was there ever a realistic option where you're I don't know, do I still want to keep doing this?
Well, I mean, it's a conversation, for sure. It's a conversation that has to be had, and it's not like I was I'm retiring, I'm done, I can't do this anymore. But sometimes it's, what's it worth? Why?
Yeah.
That's where those are kind of the questions. Am I willing to continue to sacrifice all that I sacrifice when I don't really have to keep chasing this thing? Do I love it enough? Do I still love it the way that I loved it before? And the answer is yes, I still love fighting. So if we take the title, when my initial first thought was, fuck, maybe I might not fucking get one. I might not get one. Then the next feeling is, well, fuck it. If I'm not going to get one, what am I doing this for? And the answer is because I love doing it. I love fighting. I love training. I love the camaraderie. I love having a purpose. And so then that goes into, well, what's the problem? And the problem is I'm getting older and I'm not adjusting to that. That's the problem. Things are changing. My speed is still there. My not that I've never really been a crazy athletic fighter. That's not I'm not this athletic phenom. So like, I'm not really losing that. Like, my power is still there, but like, there's some little things that are affecting me that maybe aren't that noticeable to the naked eye, but as you break it down from like my coach's perspective, they see it. So now we're just fixing those. Like, we're just adjusting to it. And honestly, I've had so much fun this training camp because I'm not having some of those struggles. And that's really where the conversation went right away. Like, okay, you still love it? Okay, here's what we got to do. Here's my opinion. And then we just go through training and we play with some things and find something that works. Like, all right, this is perfect.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because a lot of fighters talk about this. It's kind of like, you're at a point in your career where you have so much experience in that octagon. You've been in there for so much. And obviously you're an excellent analyst. You do all the shows. So mentally, it's almost like you're in an advantage because you kind of, do you feel like that fight IQ, or even like just, do you feel like you're seeing more now because you've been in the game for so long? Or is that just sort of a myth that people talk about? Because I feel like people speak about, yeah.
Yeah, maybe. But sometimes it can paralyze you because I'm so used to breaking fights down in a different way. Then you start to analyze your own game and your own opponents, and it's different. And you can paralyze yourself a little bit. So I honestly haven't broke, other than watching him fight that one time in person versus Tyson Pedro. I've never watched him fight.
Okay, and that's a common tactic. You sort of like to stay out of it, so you focus on your own thing, right?
Yeah, my coaches break it down. They give me the information. Every once in a while, they'll pull up like a clip and say, here's what we're talking about, just so I can see it. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. In relation to what we're working on. Like, okay, like if I'm not getting it or I don't understand, it's not making sense, then they'll pull up a quick little 10-second clip of whatever he's doing and say, this is what we're talking about. And then those things mesh. But as far as like watching a fight of his beginning to end, other than the one time I watched him fight Tyson Pedro live in person, I haven't seen him fight.
Right. Okay. I was going to ask you, how do you think, like going back to Dennis's point about like experience and stuff, how do you think the mental sides of things compare in this situation? Like, you're coming in with the most fun that you've had in training camp. You seem revitalized, whereas he's going to be fighting in Rio, his home country. I imagine, and he's quite young in his career. You know, he's 11-0 at the moment. How do you think that moment sort of takes him? And is it something that you feel like you might be able to capitalize on? Like, hey, the pressure's on you, man.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in title fights. I've been in a couple title eliminators. I've been in, some of the biggest cards. And I've seen a lot of Vitor Petrinos, like, I think that's kind of the difference. Like, he's super confident. He believes in himself, but he doesn't know for sure, because he doesn't have any proof of it, that he can beat a guy like me. I'll beat a lot of him. Beat a lot of guys like him. So like, if I don't beat him, then we've regressed further than I believe. But then I think the pressure's on him. He's unsure. This is a normal spot for me. Like, this is the least amount of media I'll have in a week in a long time. This is the least amount of pressure. Like, in everybody's eyes, I'm the aging, wounded lion, and so no one's expecting me to go in there and be dominant. It's a great position for me. I don't really give a shit.
What I love about you, man, is you just kind of go anywhere in the world and take on the best competition you can. You've already fought in Brazil a couple of times now. Here you are, you're going to go fight Vitor.
That's part of it too. I cannot fucking retire without getting a win in Brazil. I've never won in Brazil. I don't know what it is. I've never won in Brazil. And out of all the Brazilians that I've fought, I've only beaten one. I don't know what it is. I got to get over this hump, though. I got to shake this monkey off my back, and that's some of it. Like, that's the first thing I thought when they were talking about where I knew this card was coming up. Like, let's go to Brazil. I got to get this one out of the way.
But I love that, man, because a lot of people, some people would be like, no, I'm not going back to Brazil. Stuff that. Like, I'm fighting near my home. And you want to go where it's hardest. And you want to fight a guy in Vitor Petrino, who you were there when he fought Tyson Pedro. Even like the commentary, everything, people are saying, hey, this guy is a very, very tough guy. He's not a guy that, a lot of fighters.
That's their job. That's their job as commentators. People forget that. Like, you're being manipulated when you watch fights. Like, what are they going to say? Like, oh, like Tyson Pedro looks like he's kind of half in, half out. And Vitor Petrino's kind of just doing what he's got to do to get a win. And he's getting takedowns. And Tyson Pedro's not known as a grappler. And like, Are they going to shit all over him in front of the whole world? Like, their job is to make you think that he's a superstar. That's literally what they're paid for, is to build him up and make him seem like he's a killer. Like, that's what they're supposed to do.
They did a good job with this fight. Watching it at home, I really felt it. What did you feel though watching it live?
See, and this is where I run in. I don't want to sit here and shit on both of them, but in my opinion, it looked like one of them was afraid and the other one was happy that he was. I expected more out of those guys, to be honest with you. I expected, because I have a lot of respect for both of those guys and their games. So, I just realized I lied to you guys, because I worked that event. So I did break down a couple of his fights. I did watch him fight. I haven't since I would known I was fighting him for sure. But I just realized, like, I guess I did have to. I don't remember it because I just take in so many fights, but I guess I would have had to because I worked it. But I was expecting a lot out of them. I was expecting an action-packed, exciting fight, and it just wasn't that.
Are you hoping this is sort of like a more exciting and also like almost a bit of a revelation? I feel like you love that moment when there's a sort of younger, maybe guy who hasn't experienced it all like yourself, and then you show him like, hey man, either there's levels or like there's things that I've been through that has prepared me for this moment. And it's always fascinating seeing like undefeated, people and how they go through that adversity the first time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any secret. This is a different level that he's never seen before. At the level he's been fighting at, you can be big, strong, and explosive and get people to kind of retract from you a little bit because it's uncomfortable and it doesn't feel good. And you turn up the heat just a little bit and people don't like it and they get out of it. Tyson Pedro did that a lot. Like, when he would turn the heat up on him a little bit and it would get a little bit hot, he'd step out of the fire. Guys at the top of the division don't do that. They don't give a fuck about it getting a little bit hot. It's not that big of a deal. And in the things that are impressive as you're coming up aren't as impressive at the highest level. Like, is he explosive? Yeah, but they all are. Is he any more explosive than Johnny Walker or Rakic or what I mean? No. Like, is he any more powerful than those guys? No. Is he any better of a wrestler than like? It's all the same at the top. Everybody's strong. Everyone's explosive. Everyone hits hard. Everyone's pretty good at everything. And I think that's going to be something he's going to have to adjust to. Will he do it well? I don't know. We'll find out. But I'm not going to retract from him when the fire gets a little bit hot. I'm not going to step out of it when it's uncomfortable. Chances are, if anybody knows me, I'm going to lean into it and we're going to make it more uncomfortable for both of us. And so I think that a lot of it with the experience and, that's the things that he has to contend with. Like, he's got some pretty good skills and abilities, but everybody does.
Yeah, 100%, man. Speaking of skills and abilities, if you want to level up your skills and abilities when it comes to your downstairs grooming game, especially when it comes to your knee knockers, your golden nuggets, your thigh slappers, whatever you want to call them, our good friends at Manscaped call them the boys. Not every man has children, but every man has a couple of, the boys downstairs below the waist, and Manscaped looks after the boys for you so that you don't have to worry about any kind of nicks or cuts or snags or anything like that. They got the best grooming technology in the world with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. You can go for an older version if you want, the 3.0 Plus, the 4.0 Pro, but we prefer the 5.0 Ultra. It's got the skin-safe technology. They all do. You got the travel lock as well, so it doesn't go off in the middle of your, 12-hour flight from LA to Australia. It's got LED lights. It's got also the waterproof features. I personally like to just smash it out in the shower while I'm busy doing stuff and then move on with my life. And with the code submission, you get the cheeky 20% off. Isn't that right, Dennis?
That's right, Cass. Manscaped is an absolute must-have. Jump on there today. Another absolute must-have is our friends at NordVPN. They have the best VPN going today. A new little update. Last time I mentioned one NordVPN account could be used up to 6 devices. Now it's 10 devices. 10 devices. That's right, 10 devices. So you guys can have one account and sort yourself out completely. NordVPN is the best VPN in the world. It's the fastest VPN in the world with no buffering, lagging while streaming, and stops your ISP bandwidth throttling. And not to mention that it provides you the kind of security that you need when you're online shopping. But really right now, for all the sport fans out there, it's basketball season. Get your VPN out and enjoy every single game thanks to NordVPN. Get that discounted pricing for all your streaming services, cheaper flights, cheaper hotels, and a lot more. Watch all the TV shows. All the geo-blocking is a thing of the past thanks to NordVPN. I absolutely love it. Go to nordvpn.com/submission right now. You could try it risk-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee and get their massive, massive deal where you got 4 extra months on the 2-year plan for free. There's no risk, absolutely no risk right now. Jump on and get this amazing deal at nordvpn.com/submission. But Anthony, just going back to the start of the interview, you said this fight, you're focused on the individual, you're not focused on the belt. This is the end of your camp, obviously, as you go to Rio. Do you feel like this approach was more effective? How are you feeling compared to the Anthony Smith that took that last second fight against Khalil just in that last fight? What kind of difference? Because I imagine you're taking that last minute fight going, all right, I get this fight. I beat this guy. You know, he's got great name value. I'm back in that hunt. Now you're like, I'm focused on this fighter. I'm going to Brazil. I want to get a win in Brazil. I'm just solely focused on this guy. I'm not looking at the title at all. How are you feeling compared to that other Anthony?
I haven't even really thought about him too much, if I'm being honest. And that's going to be my own problems that I have to deal with a little bit, because since I haven't thought about him too much, and like, you know, sometimes I get so obsessed, and, you know, they keep you up at night, and you're, you know, like Ryan Spann, the first time I fought him, that dude kept me up every fucking night. Like, I don't know why. I was just so, there was a couple things that really bothered me. Like, I knew I was better everywhere, but like, goddamn, that's a big dude and he's super powerful. Like, what if everything's going perfect and he fucking dices me with a right hand, you know? Mm-hmm. And I was just worried about it. Like, he kept me up at night, and like, this dude really doesn't like, and it's not because he's not good. It's just my mindset is different. I'm just worried about myself. So like, I've been super focused on my own game, like I felt like and maybe that's a me problem. Like, me and you know, Chris Gutierrez, right? Mm-hmm. Me and Chris do this thing in practice to each other where, like, if I'll look over at him and it seems like he's zoning a little bit, like if we're going over, I don't know, single leg takedown defenses, or like something very rudimentary that we've done a billion times over and over and over, and it's just like this, we're going over it again. And like, if I look over at him and he looks like he's a little bit spacey and he's not quite there, like, I'll go over and I'll like hit him, or I'll snap in his face and go, lock in, motherfucker. Mm-hmm. And like, he does the same thing to me. Like, I'm doing a better job of being present and like paying attention to the small details, even if it's something that I've seen 100 times, you know, like revamping my jab. Like, how many times have I thrown a jab in the last 20 years? You know what I mean? Yeah. A billion times. Like, how many different ways can you throw a jab? But like, just going through a practice or a personal session with Mark, like, hey, today we're going to work on your jab. Instead of me like checking out, like, oh, okay, I've done this a billion times, like really just being present and just being where I am. I think that's kind of been the difference. It just really focused on myself and just trying to get better, you know, and just trying to show a different version of myself. And honestly, a lot of it's just really focused on my conditioning and making sure that I can go hard for as long as I need to. So I'm just happier. I'm just hanging out. Like, I spent a lot more time alone this training camp, which has been really nice. So I don't typically do a whole lot. Like, you know, I go home on the weekends, I got my family, my friends come hang out, like kind of just bouncing around a little bit and just being by myself, which has been nice.
Dude, that's awesome, man. And I can't wait to watch this fight. I know you're focused on Vitor. I know that you've had a really good camp and not looking at the belt, but I just got to quickly ask, Alex Pereira, as we finish up, he had a great performance against Jamal Hill. And I know you're the type of person that loves knowing that there's a challenge out there. You know, nothing against the previous champions at 205, but after John Jones, we really haven't had that champion where, and Glover Teixeira was a great champion, obviously, but we really haven't had that champion like an Alex Pereira since John Jones, where people are like, whoa, it's Alex Pereira. You know what I mean? That kind of dominant, powerful champion.
Like reigning, like he's reigning.
Yeah, exactly. How does it feel for you having that champion in the division? I know you're focused on your fight in Rio, but it must be exciting to know that, hey, this division's wide open and this could be potentially the guy that I would fight for the belt, you know, because I know you love a challenge.
Yeah, he's fun, you know, and him and I have had our words back and forth. I don't think that there's any like real beef there, but there's definitely something there with him and I where, given the opportunity, we both would jump on it. Like if I can put myself into a position where like, oh, holy shit, here we're on a little bit of a streak and things are going well, the timing works out, I think both of us would jump on that opportunity. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's, real recognizes real a little bit. Like I'm one of the few guys probably that would really, I don't know, I would step in the fire with him, and he knows that, like, is Uncle Life going to stand in the pocket and trade with Alex Pereira and really play that game? Probably not. You know what I mean? Which is probably the worst matchup in the division for not just Pereira, but him and fucking everybody else.
Yeah.
That guy's kind of the boogeyman just floating around out there. But yeah, I like it. I like it, like having this kind of having a little bit of stability in the division. I'm not going to lie, Jamal, is a friend of mine, so it would have been nice to see him. It would have been nice to see him get the title and get his title back, and kind of for no other reason other than just to legitimize himself, and put himself in a good spot. But yeah, I like it. I like Pereira's game. I like his game a lot. It's fun.
So do we, man. And I think like the fact that you would be willing to stand in there and trade in the fire, like you said, kind of gets people excited. And the fact that 205, it's pretty open at the moment, man. It's one of those things where like anyone can kind of grab it. You put together a good streak. But I know that's not something that you're, overthinking. Dude, what a great chat, man.
One at a time, my friend. Guys, one at a time.
That's it, man. Make sure to follow Anthony on his road to Rio at Lionheart Smith and check him out on MMA Today Weekly. Pleasure chatting with you, as always. I think a fantastic chat, and I'm looking forward to seeing the fight, man. Best of luck getting that Brazil win.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Anthony.
Oh, hey, I got a good one.
Yeah.
You remember like the last couple times I had this big beef with Rockhold?
Yeah. Yep.
You know we're friends now?
Really? No way.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, I'll have to send you guys this picture of Rockhold and I hanging out in my hand. It's wild. It's wild. I was like, the last time I was on here with you guys, I was like, me and Rockhold were in this heated beef back and forth. Like he would come on with you guys and talk shit, and then I was talking shit.
Yeah.
It's wild. It's cool though. He's actually a good dude.
So we have to ask about this. So what happened? How did you guys go from, talking crap to like friends?
So the Jackson podcast, the owner of that company is really good friends with Luke. So then I went out and did the podcast, and he asked me about Luke Rockhold, not knowing that we didn't get along. And I immediately was like, fuck Luke Rockhold immediately. And he was like, oh, come on, man. Like Luke's a good dude. And I was like, well, maybe in like an alternate world when you're not me. And then right before I fought Khalil, him and Luke Rockhold FaceTime me, or like wish me luck, and I talked to him on the phone. And then we met up in Miami and had a drink about it, and it actually had a lot of fun with Luke that weekend.
Wow. Was it one of those things when you had a chat, like did you kind of realize like a lot of the maybe animosity or whatever was not really based on much? I feel like sometimes when you don't like someone and then you get in a room together, you realize like, what the fuck was that all about? That was about nothing. It's like one little thing.
Yeah, we were so stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like some of it was our egos. Some of it was we were in the same division and both of us were like, like in this title hunt. And some of it was my feelings were hurt. Like my feelings were hurt because you got to remember, when I got signed to Strikeforce, Luke was the champion. And like he was the shit. So like I used to look up to him and never had any, like our paths never crossed. So I just always thought like I really look up to that guy for what he's done. And then I'm getting ready to fight John Jones, and all of a sudden Luke Rockhold's like, that guy's a fucking bum. And I was like, whoa, wait a second, I really like that guy.
Yeah.
And that's where it started. And then I exploded, and then he exploded. And it's cool to like, as I'm getting older, I'm like not really wanting to have all these, the things that happen when you're younger, when you're willing to hurt people's feelings to try to get ahead. Like I'm not really as willing to do that anymore. So it's nice to, mend those fences,
Dude, that's awesome. And, people kind of, that happens with Luke a little bit, but then we go, man, Luke, he's a really cool guy in real life. But what I love is you guys have so much in common. He just went out to karate combat. He got a big win, and we're so happy for him. Both of you guys have that heart and determination. So great to see you guys getting along again. And by the way, just selfishly, as we wrap, I know you said you want to get that win in Brazil. I hope before it's all said and done, you come down to Australia and take that off your list as well and get
I would love that
here, because that would be an honor for us to watch you live as well. Guys, make sure to check out Anthony Smith at UFC 301. Thank you so much for joining us, man. What an honor.
Yeah, thank you guys.